And there we go. Can you hear me okay?
I got you, Kelly. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, geez, the last one I just did, the for some reason I couldn't hear the guy, and I already have trouble understanding Australians, and so it was difficult.
That's okay. I've got friends that live in Vegas, so we can talk Australian to Vegas.
Ah, good. I like that idea. I can understand you perfectly.
Great.
Nothing against the last guy. You're in Australia. You live in Australia. Of course, you talk like you're in Australia. I talk like I'm American.
Yep. So you're here in December. Are you excited? Is this going to be your first trip to Australia?
Oh my God, I can't even tell you. I just can't even tell you. Um, it came about in such a weird way. I was doing a show in Japan, and a big Randy fan came to my show in Japan, and it turned out to be Steve from Scuba Steve from Snakebite Whiskey,
Yep.
who's also on our show that we'll be doing over there with his band. And he said, I got to bring you to Australia. And me being the way I am, I say, sure, I'll go. Yeah, sure, fine, whatever, thinking it'll never happen. But of course, it did.
And it's going to be a really interesting show because there's going to be a few different aspects to it. So explain
Yes.
how the show is going to work for everyone who's seen that it's been announced.
Well, first of all, the thing that's going to make this different than what I've been doing these shows, these tribute shows for quite a while. Uh, when I was in Japan in November, that was my second time there doing it. Other than that, I've been doing them around the US, and I usually just play with a bunch of local guys, and they're thrilled to, have the opportunity to, play with somebody who played with Randy Rhoads and to do those songs that they love. And that's been really, really rewarding for me. Um, this time around, it's more of a pro deal. This time I've got some players who really, really know what they're doing. And I think that's going to make a huge difference. For instance, you know, these songs that we're doing were recorded in 77, 78. They're quite dated. So what I do is I tell these guitar players, I say, okay, play what Randy played, but don't play it like Randy played it. Play it like Dimebag or Zach or somebody like that. Beef it up. Let's give these songs some balls, which is what they lacked immensely. So this time around, when people hear these songs, they're going to go, wow, this is amazing. And this is going to be some long buried music that we're going to be doing. And it's going to sound great.
So basically, what you want them to do is if Randy became a modernized metal guitar player 2025.
Exactly, and extremely well put. Thank you. And I'm
It's
going to
okay.
steal that.
All means. And the
Yeah.
the thing is, when you go back and listen to Quiet Riot 1 and 2, they only received, you know, release in Japan. They were pretty much buried everywhere
Yeah,
else. Now,
right.
they may sound dated, but they sound exactly like they should have sounded when they came out. So to hear
When
modernized
they should have,
versions,
how they should have
yeah,
sounded. That's the key right there. Because we had such horrible producers, we had horrible management that, most strikingly stood out in our image, which was ridiculous.
yeah,
But we were a bunch of little kids mesmerized by a bunch of guys with a real lot of money and offices in Beverly Hills with Florida ceiling windows that overlooked all of Beverly Hills. So whatever these guys said, we did. Hey
yeah.
Kelly, you got to wear a sailor suit. Sure, I will. I'll do that. Nah, 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 man,
But
that wasn't us.
but I think that even comes down to the fact that in all of the interviews I've read in doing research, that both you and Randy, when you started, you wanted more of an Alice Cooper kind of vocalist and an Alice Cooper kind of vibe. And it's funny that if you listen, there's like Force of Habit on Quiet Riot too, which sounds like
Thank
it
you.
could have been an Alice Cooper song.
Thank you. Yes, and that's why I'm doing that song when I get over there. And that's probably one of my most favorite songs in the whole set because that was me and Randy. And, um, when we got into Quiet Riot and got with this management, they were telling us to sound like the Bay City Rollers. Bay City Rollers? Are you kidding me? Come on, really? And and so again, bunch of kids, bunch of money around us, bunch of money being thrown into us. We did what they said, and that's the saddest thing. I always say, Van Halen, everybody says, I wonder why Van Halen made it before Quiet Riot. How come those guys got a break and Quiet Riot didn't? Because we were neck and neck back in this that scene on the Sunset Strip in the late '70s in Hollywood. And I always say, well, I'll tell you why. Because nobody told Van Halen how to be Van Halen. They said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, somebody thought we were broken or had this glamorous envisionment of who we should be and what would appeal to the masses that flopped.
Yeah.
And that's what held us back from ever doing anything great. Thank God for the Japanese people who had some faith in us and let us, um, release two albums. Otherwise, those never would have happened.
Now, who owns the masters to Quiet Riot 1 and 2? Do you know?
That's an interesting question, and I have a very interesting answer for that.
Okay.
Technically, there are no masters. Technically. Now, uh, the Quiet Riot Years was a great album in that Kevin, at the time, this is back in, gosh, I believe it was late 90s when we released that. I'd have to look up the date. Um, Kevin had some kind of master tapes, 2-inch tape, analog, that you recorded on back in
Hmm.
those days. And they were basically destroyed. Those kind of tapes don't age very well, and often there's a technique you have to use where you bake the tapes in an oven for like
Yep.
4 hours or something, and then you can do something with them. And Kevin told me he did all that, rescued what he could off of them, and that was how he created Quiet Riot 2, where he modernized the sound a little bit. He also had some recordings that were done that were decent enough to work with, because at that time computers had started to get involved with music,
Yep.
not to the extent it is now, but Kevin was able to use some computer technology to give him a little bit more life, and nowhere near what he was able to do, what people are able to do now. Now we have a situation where the masters or the name Quiet Riot, anything Quiet Riot, is owned by Frankie's widow, Regina, who
Yep.
I get along with very well, thank God. And she made a deal with the Greeks, a Greek company called No Remorse Records. And they re-released those albums in a very, very limited box set. It was beautiful what these guys put together. I couldn't even believe it. And the next thing I couldn't believe was when I put a vinyl on. I didn't bother. I don't want to hear the CD. It came with a
Yep.
CD and a cassette tape. I want to hear the vinyl because me and my wife are very into vinyl. We have a good collection, good system.
Yep.
And I put on one of the vinyls and I was blown away how good it sounded. They had this guy that was a wizard in the studio at making old stuff sound like it was recorded yesterday. And he did that to these two albums. And when I heard it, I was like, that's how they should have sounded. That's it right there. and it was really, really good. He really beefed them up and gave them some balls. That's what they lacked.
Right.
And he modernized them. And so that's what I'm doing with the show I'm bringing to Australia. When I talk to the guitar players, I say, play what Randy played, but play it like Zach would play it like Dimebag would play it, you know, just put everything into it. Make it sound like it was, we recorded this or played it or learned it, wrote it yesterday.
Yep.
That's what I'm looking for.
Now, from what I can gather, you were talking about what Kevin had done throughout with trying to get some older material back out. It sounds like your relationship got a little bit better over the years. Is that fair to say?
Oh, more than fair to say. More than fair to say. And I got to tell you, I've lived a pretty good life. If anybody's ever read my book, I've had a pretty wild life, pretty weird life. But I got to tell you, the greatest thing that ever happened to me in my life, and I hope my wife doesn't take offense because she's pretty great too.
Yep.
But, after many, many, many decades of Kevin and I hating each other, I mean, back in Quiet Riot days, we couldn't be in a room without getting into a fist fight, which he always won because he was significantly bigger than me.
Yep.
And it turned out Kevin was actually a pretty good fighter. But at some point, a mutual friend of ours came to me and he said, listen, he says, Kevin's going to play in Las Vegas. I'm going to come up there and I want to put you two together in a room and I want you guys to make up because there's just too much history to throw away with a bunch of hatred.
Yep.
Best thing anybody ever said to me. And I said, okay, yeah, I'll do it. So we went down to, they were playing at the Aladdin Hotel here in Las Vegas. And my friend Kim took me down there. I went up to Kevin's room and it was magical. We just hugged each other. I mean, we didn't even see each other after Randy died, which I know for sure was not only a big loss for me,
Yep.
but it was a really big loss for Kevin as well. And that hug should have happened at Randy's funeral, which I did not attend. I couldn't stand to go. I just said, no, I don't want to see this. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of glad I did because it was a circus.
Yep.
But yeah, we became just as close as me and Randy were,
Great.
quite honestly. And he eventually moved to Las Vegas. He lived less than a mile away from me. I was always at his house. I took care of his house when he was on tour. And we were just the best of friends. We had lunch a couple times a week or dinner. And he had a little recording studio in his house, and I would go over there and play bass and help him write songs for the newer material that Quiet Riot was releasing at that time, which nobody bought, but that's okay. And man, I just, and then I lose him, and I can't even tell you. It almost seemed like a bigger loss than losing Randy. With me and
Yep.
Randy, there was never any hate. With Kevin, there was just so much. And then once that went away, it was replaced with so much love. And now he was gone. And I
Yep.
sure could use him now.
Yeah. Now, going back and researching for our chat, a name that comes up in Quiet Riot history in a few different aspects is a guy called Ron Sobel. Who is he?
Yes. Ron Sobel was Kevin's best friend when we met Kevin. And Ron was a photographer. And so when Kevin came into the mix of Quiet Riot, he said, yeah, I've got a guy and he's a photographer. And so Ron shot a real lot of pictures of us from just, day one onward and did a fantastic job. He was a good photographer and he really captured some priceless pictures. And I'm glad for that. I'm really glad for that. They've ended up in a lot of books. And every time I see one of his pictures, I'm like, I'm so glad that guy was there.
Yeah. He's also got a few songwriting credits too.
if I may address that a moment.
I knew this was coming.
All, pretty much I can sum it up like this. I don't know why. Because Randy and Kevin pretty much handled the songwriting. Ron was always around. We, me and the drummer Drew Forsythe would help out with some lyrics here and there.
Hmm.
And apparently that's enough to get a songwriting credit because I do get credit on a song or a couple of songs. And I have no idea what I contributed to that song. Now, perfect example,
Yep.
Slick Black Cadillac, pretty famous song.
Yeah.
The new guys are doing out there doing it. That's written about my dad. Do I have a song credit? No. So, you know, I have to say I don't remember specifically because Ron couldn't play anything. So, Ron's not, putting down his camera and picking up a guitar and going, "Hey, how about this for a chorus? Da 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 da. Da. Let's do that." You
Yep.
know, that never happened. So the only thing I can figure is that he helped out with some lyrics, and so that is what gets me through the day from being upset.
Give a word, get a third.
Yeah, he did help somewhere because I get
Yep.
credit. Like I said, I get credit on songs, and I don't have the slightest clue what I did with them. The only song I claim to have written with Randy, um, that was on those two albums, is "Killer Girls."
Okay.
That's the only one. I mean, hello, it starts off with a bass. Where do you think that came from?
Yep.
So, and ironically, so does Slick Black Cadillac on the original version. But yeah, I don't fancy myself any kind of a songwriter anyway. So really, I don't take a whole lot of offense to all of
Yep.
it. If Ron contributed something, good for him. He certainly gave enough of his time without making a dime uh, to earn some sort of a place in Quiet Riot. And I'm glad that he was there.
Have you seen 2025's Quiet Riot live?
I certainly have. Yep, I go to their shows a lot. Not every time they play Vegas because they do play here a lot, but I go now and then. In 2023, I got upstage on stage with the band, and I did Slick Black Cadillac,
Yep.
and it was my first time on stage with Quiet Riot in 43 years.
Wow.
So now I've got my own version
Yep.
of Quiet Riot. I've got the original guys. They've got theirs, and I fully support everything they do. All this talk of, oh, they're just a cover band and all that, I don't agree with it. Quiet Riot is a brand. There's a whole lot of bands out there going out there with one original member. The guys that are currently in there have been in Quiet Riot for many, many, many years, and now they've got Rudy Sarzo in there as well.
Yep.
So no one can say they're really a cover band at all. And
Yep.
again, it's a brand. They're a pair of Levi's, they're a Coke, they're a Pepsi.
Yep. Look at Foreigner.
There's a perfect example right there.
I'd go see them tomorrow if I was in the States. I wouldn't care who was playing. It's still Foreigner.
There you go. That's the way people should go to these shows because you know what? I go and I see their shows and I go, that's a Quiet Riot show.
Yeah. Well,
They're Quiet Riot.
Alex was
And
the
I don't
guitar
I don't
player.
think
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think yeah, Alex has been in that band like 16 years.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're not an original member? He's earned his place.
Yeah.
And Shizzy's been in there I don't know how many years, So it's people still love this type of music. And so somebody has to play it.
Yeah.
We don't live forever as musicians. We die off. We live pretty hard lives, a lot of us. And, so we don't live all that long. And so it's nice to have somebody pick up the pieces and pick up the legacy and go out there and put it in front of people and make them happy. And that's what I see when I go to a Quiet Riot show.
And that's what we're going to see when you come here.
even more. But this is going to be my Quiet Riot.
Yep.
They have their Quiet Riot. I have my Quiet Riot. So it could easily be said there's two Quiet Riots.
Great. The more the merrier.
Seemed to me, wasn't there two Queensryches at one time?
There was. There was
Yeah, wasn't there
two
like two rats,
two
two
rats.
warrants,
Yep.
all these guys, okay, hey, if you're in front of people and they're digging it and having a good time and you're putting your all into it, more power to them, just enjoy the show.
I think the main difference is there's no animosity between the two Quiet Riots.
Um, there really isn't. There really isn't. I mean, hey, you got to admit, I mean, being able to say, claim Randy Rhoads was an original member of your band,
Yep.
and we all know why he isn't around anymore. Um, that gives him a lot of street cred, as far as I'm concerned. And again, this is the formation of a brand. It's the continuation of a brand. Um, and they bring it. They sound just like Kevin was in the band. Jizzy does a great job. Rudy, of course, is fantastic and has been with anybody he ever played with. And they needed a drummer, so they got John Kelly, and he's a great drummer. As a matter of fact, me and Kevin were huge, huge fans of Typo Negative.
Right. Great band.
Yeah, yeah, very great band. But yeah, there's no animosity at all.
Excellent.
Of course, I have to be careful with a few things I do, such as when I come to Australia, you're not going to be hearing no "Come on, feel the noise."
Yep.
That's not who I am. I am Slick Black Cadillac. I am that guy, but I'm also a whole lot more.
Excellent. All right, Kelly, you're here in December. It's going to be a real fun 3 show run for you. And I hopefully you get out and see a bit of the country while you're here. But I'll make sure I see you in Brisbane. I look forward to catching up with you then. But
Fantastic.
thank you for your time today, mate. I look forward to seeing you in December.
Oh, I can't wait. I just absolutely cannot wait. I'm going to be there several weeks because we have quite a bit of rehearsing that we're going to do. We've got Van Hager and Snakebite Whiskey, and various members are going to be popping in and out on the set. But there's also another important element to the show that I feel I should mention,
Yep.
and that is that coming to Australia has offered me an opportunity to bring something to people that no one has ever seen and it's never been done before. And that is the Q&A, which normally I'm sitting there by myself answering questions.
Yep.
But this time I've got Scott Shelley, who was Randy's guitar teacher. And I had a long conversation with Scott yesterday. And at first I was thinking, okay, Scott Shelley, that's great. What's he going to say? Oh, yeah, I taught Randy. He was a great student, blah, blah, blah. No, he brings so much more to the conversation. So much more. And being as it's Australia, there's also another very integral person to Randy Rhoads' development of the guitar playing that eventually wowed the world. And I can't mention any names, but we're still waiting to hear on his availability to do this.
Perfect. All right, Kelly. I'll see you in December. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
No worries. Bye bye.
Bye bye.